Uh, what happened to Stephen? I know
Stephen,
it's hard for you to talk about, but let's discuss it a little
yeah,
bit.
the he passed.
Okay, where did your sons? You had two sons?
I had two sons, Jimmy Glenn Brown, and his father, of course, died in a VA hospital. He was World War II victim.
He was your husband.
Yes, I was legally married to him.
Now,
And
where'd your two sons go to school?
Texas A&M, both of them, big Aggies.
One of the best school in the entire world.
Yeah, I often, when Jimmy started at A&M, my friends had written this Texas Aggie joke, and so we'd gone to all of the parenting, where to go to college and everything. Of course, SMU was right in Dallas and Baylor, and so I told my son, I said, son, you've got to make up your mind where you're going to college. And he said, well, I'm going to A&M. I said, A&M? Of course, all these jokes were like, I said, are you sure? And he said, yes, Mother. So we drove down to A&M to check everything out. So when I came back, I told my office, I said, Jimmy's going to A&M. Well, you talk about being hoorah'd, oh, he's going to be an Aggie, Every once in a while I run into these people, and they still, mention that.
Yeah.
Of course, when Stephen got ready to go to college, well, because his brother was an Aggie, then, of course, he, wanted to be an Aggie.
Yeah.
We had a great time in those years.
Yeah.
He was military in those years.
Right. Now, you'd mentioned in the past about a lawsuit that
Stephen filed a lawsuit after he found out for sure. Well, I've had heart trouble, and I thought I was going to die. And I thought, well, it would be totally unfair to him not to know who he is and where he came from.
Yeah, when did you tell Stephen that Lennon was his father?
Well, he was quite young that he actually knew that he was his father. But this attorney, Jerome Ragsdale, would always sit in for everything, and people automatically thought Jerome Ragsdale was the father.
Yeah.
But after Stephen filed his lawsuit, that's when our world turned upside down. Of course, he was an attorney. And he said to me, he said, Mother, I'm entitled to that part of that estate.
Yeah, whose estate?
Lyndon's estate.
When Lyndon passed away?
And he said, I'm going for it. And I said, oh, son, I know the political setup in Texas. I said, don't open a can of worms. And here he was. I mean, he was a spitting image of Lyndon. He said, well, when I walk in that courtroom, I asked him not to file it in Dallas County because of the political things. He said, I'll automatically win my lawsuit. I said, don't count on it, But he filed, and it was really with regret, even to this day, that he filed that lawsuit.
What were the provisions of the court at that time?
Well, our money stopped in 75. Lyndon, I think, died in 73. And Jess told the attorney that he was putting everything on hold because of problems in the probate or settling the estate. But I can look back now. I think the two men, Jerome Ragsdale and Jess Kellum, they feel their pockets full.
Yeah. Well, now, Stephen was supposed to appear in court. Why did he not appear in court? Let's go into that a little bit.
I have a letter from Martin Frost and Phil Graham. It was real strange. Stephen had served his time in the U.S. Navy, and after he filed his lawsuit, the Navy suddenly decided that he was a deserter. And
even though he had an honorable discharge.
He had an honorable discharge. So they arrested Stephen. It was close to Christmas time, and I was horrified. Stephen had already had cancer and was taking treatment. So to show you how they are, of the military and all of the mess. They picked him up. They first took him to Corpus, and if I had my time to go over, I would have sued. I would have made a big national mess out of it. Here he was. They knew he was sick. They handcuffed him, put him in a van, and drove him to Corpus. Well, from Dallas to Corpus is not a short trip. So when Steve got there, of course I was already on the phone talking to people, they said his feet was swollen so bad they had to put him in a wheelchair. Well, when I got a hold of, the best I remember, it was Admiral Taylor. I said, you people have made a mistake. Well, what they did, he told me that they'd let him come home, but they didn't. They put him in an ambulance and took him to Brooks General Hospital in San Antonio, who has all of Lyndon's medical records. So when I found out that they had taken him there, I caught a plane and flew to San Antonio to see my son, whereas he came up missing. He was gone about 2 months. No one had given me an answer, but
So you couldn't find him?
I couldn't find him. But Stephen told, after we did find him, that they took the bone marrow, they did all kinds of testing to him. But the lawsuit was scheduled to come up into court, and it was very convenient that Stephen wasn't around. And at that time, they would not have postponed anything because of the political thing, the lawsuit.
So
they they're in Dallas County. They marked the case, failed to appear in court, dismissed. And after that, I had a friend in Washington. He's a well-known detective. They located Steve, and he's often told me, you do not know, and I don't, how we got him back to Dallas. But Stephen, of course, ultimately passed away.
Yeah. Now how much was Stephen suing?
$10 million.
$10 million?
Or $10.5 million. I don't know how he came to arrive at that figure, but it was $10.5 million.
And so the purpose of them saying he was a deserter was for what reason?
Well, it was a way to get him where he couldn't appear in court, and then they could
throw the case out.
Throw the case out.
Okay, let's go on to a fellow named John J. McCloy. What do you know about John J. McCloy?
Well, John has a colorful history too. Chase Manhattan Bank, but he put all the finance together for Clint Murchison, and what was it? After World War II, they sent John J. McCloy to Germany to, I guess, rule Germany for whatever they did over there.
I believe it's called Chancellor of Germany or something like that.
And when he came back, of course, he picked up his role with the oil people and went from there.
Into the Chase Manhattan Bank?
Yeah.
What was his tie to Hunt and Richardson and Murchison?
Well, he would put the finance plans together for the oil deals, as best I remember.
Did you ever meet John J. McCloy personally?
I did. I met most of these people off and on at these socials and things, but he was at Clint's house the night before the assassination.
Okay. How about Richard Nixon? He was there, and what do you know about Richard Nixon?
Well, Clint Murchison, and I think I have a copy of that letter in my book, or if not, I have one, that Clint told Lyndon if he could get the support of, who was it, Senator Nolan and Richard Nixon, he could control America. And I've often wondered how the power did Richard Nixon, did it come from Eisenhower or was it from some other source? But, yeah.
So Richard was there at the meeting?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people says he wasn't, but you personally saw him there.
Oh, he was in Dallas. Oh, sure he was.
Okay. And you mentioned that Amon G. Carter Jr. was there. What do you know about Amon G.
Well,
Carter Jr.?
Amon Carter, of course, was the political fellow from Fort Worth. He owned Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I think it was. Again, he was part of that 8F group, finance, money, control in Texas.
Of course, he got his power from his father,
Probably.
Amon G. Carter Sr., who had made all of the money, and then he inherited that.
And Sid Richardson, Sid was out of Fort Worth, too.
Yeah. Tell me what you know about, you say George Brown was there. What do you know about George Brown?
Well, I knew the Brown and Root people. I knew them quite well. And, of course, in the 30s, the Root died somewhere along in there. So it became the Brown and Root Company. And they ended up with all the big military contracts and things. And that was because they hobnobbed with Lyndon Johnson.
So Lyndon made sure that Brown and Root got military contracts and government contracts, and what was Lyndon's part of it?
Well, he got kickbacks. He had money,
Yeah.
That's why the Vietnam situation went on as long as because of the money involved.
So it was advantageous for that Vietnam War to last a long time because Brown, Root, and all the others made money off it, and Johnson got his share of it.
Sure did.
Okay.
We were talking about Stephen, and I've waited and waited until the time that I'd rather not say on camera who it is, but there was another love child. It was a girl, and but she was I understand she makes about $500,000 a year.
Well, you're talking about Jack Valenti's daughter there.
Linda Courtney.
Linda Courtney Valenti.
Her mother was Mary Margaret.
Who was her mother?
Mary Margaret.
What was her job?
She worked in Lyndon's office as a secretary.
Okay.
She has bitterly denied the story. What was the girl out of San Antonio? Has written a book on Lady Bird, unofficial biography. And, of course, she had heard the story, and she came to me. Of course, I get calls all the time, And I said, yes, I know about it, but I cannot prove it. I just know that it happened. So, anyway, she put it in her book, but the publisher had it pulled.
Yeah.
I'd have let it run if it'd been me. They'd have sold 1 million copies.
Yeah. Now, in the past, you told me a story about, I forget who it was, but Stephen walked into the room, and whoever it was said something about Stephen and how he looked so much.
Oh, Lyndon's sister, Rebecca.
Okay.
We were at the Adolphus Hotel. The Democrats were meeting, and she was with, well, golly, I can't think of her name, Pearl Mesa from Washington.
Right.
So when Stephen walked in, of course, he was a little fella, and they said, oh, my God, that kid looks enough like Lyndon to be his son. And boy, did I ever get Stephen out of that office. Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.